Jacob Rees-Mogg is a member of the Brexit Select Committee, Conservative MP for North East Somerset, and of course leader of the European Research Group, the group of Eurosceptic Tory backbenchers, and one of those who has now signed a letter of no confidence in the Prime Minister. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Do you think Donald Trump has helped or hindered the Prime Minister in her attempt to get the House of Commons to accept her Brexit deal?
Well, he's pointed out something that is obvious from reading the withdrawal agreement. That is, we will not be able to make trade deals with other countries because we'll be bound into the European Union's customs union. So the Prime Minister's failed to achieve one of the objectives of Brexit.
So he has helped her by pointing that out?
Well, he's pointed out something that is true and self-evident. But whether this will have a big effect on the debate, I don't know. But it gives some authoritative commentary on the suggestion that has come from other people that this agreement or proposal at this stage limits the government's ability to trade with the rest of the world freely, because we'll be tied into the inefficient protectionist European system.
Let's talk about what's happening in the House of Commons then. The Prime Minister, for the third time in a matter of about, 10 days, went to the House of Commons to face, pretty much a mauling, not just from Labour backbenchers, Liberal Democrats, SNP, DUP, but also her own Conservative backbenchers. MP after MP stood up to criticise her deal, to say they would not vote for it. She's, on the plus side, I suppose people are saying how tenacious she is, how resilient she is. Does she have any chance of getting this deal through the House of Commons?
Well, you never know until the votes are counted. But at the moment it looks extremely unlikely. But as you rightly say, the deal was opposed from all sides yesterday. It was opposed by Conservatives because it fails to meet the promises that were given in the Conservative Party manifesto and in any number of the Prime Minister's own speeches. So the United Kingdom is divided up. There's a whole annex on that. We would remain in the customs union indefinitely and would have no independent right of exiting it. We would be paying £39 billion and getting nothing clear in return, and we will remain subject in certain areas to the European Court of Justice. So it absolutely fails to meet the Prime Minister's well-known red lines.
OK, so if it doesn't meet the Prime Minister's red lines, there's so much opposition from her own backbench. I think 91 Conservative backbenchers have now said they'll vote against it. The DUP, Lib Dems, SNP and Labour all saying they'll vote against it for various different reasons, whether as Brexiteers or as Remainers in the large case on their count. Why then is the Prime Minister pushing on through and planning to bring this to the vote on the 11th of December? If she knows or expects to lose the vote, Prime Ministers don't normally do that. So what is the motive or the ulterior motive here?
Well, I think she must believe that it is possible to get it through, and votes in Parliament can change. And no doubt the whips will be doing everything they can, and no doubt there are discussions going on with the Labour Party. But the Prime Minister said at her press conference Friday a week ago that this was the deal she'd always wanted. And that, I think, is the problem with it, that she said she wanted another deal and then says this is the one she'd always wanted. And it's a feeling that she was saying one thing and doing another behind people's backs that has made people so concerned about this deal.
Well, there's quite a lot of conspiracy theories doing the rounds, among them that the number 10 are expecting that this vote will fall, there'll be chaos on the markets, the pound will plummet in value, and then that will perhaps sort of focus the minds of Conservative backbenchers like yourself at the prospect of chaos, economic chaos, and indeed a possibility of a general election, that threat always hanging over everybody, and a Corbyn government, and basically being forced to look backs against the walls, being forced to accept her deal. What do you make of that theory?
Well, first of all, the Fixed Term Parliament Act makes a general election unlikely unless Conservative MPs vote for it, and I see no prospect of Conservative MPs voting for an early election over this. On the point of the TARP strategy, it's been called because this is what happened in 2008 in the United States, that the markets crashed and Congress reversed its vote. It's very unusual for markets to crash neatly in order to be convenient to government policy. Markets tend to crash when people aren't expecting it, not when the government said now would be a good time to crash. So if they're really running that strategy, they ought to pay a little bit more attention to how markets tend to work.
Sir Michael Fallon, the former Defence Secretary, always been a very arch loyalist to whoever is the leader of the Conservative Party. He's been sticking the boot in interviews this morning, being very critical not just of the deal but also of Theresa May. Are you expecting more letters to go in terms of vote of no confidence? We're told we've got 25 now that are public. It's thought there will be a number more that haven't been made public. You need 48 letters. You've urged others to send their letters in. There was a sort of a damp squib of an attempted coup a week or two ago. Do you think that we're likely to see more letters coming in the next couple of weeks? Will there be a Tory leadership contest sooner rather than later?
Well, first of all, it wasn't a coup. That's the wrong word to use, because this was using the procedures of the Conservative Party's constitution. It was therefore a completely proper procedure to follow. But on the numbers, I don't know, because I know no more than you how many letters have gone in that haven't been made public, and it needs 48, and the public number is lower than that. So we'll have to wait and see.
Do you think the Prime Minister, she's going off on a tour of the nation apparently for 2 weeks trying to sell this deal, do you think she can sell this deal to the public? And if not, why not?
Well, so far she hasn't. The polling on it is not encouraging. And the reason I think it's hard to sell is that the Prime Minister promised completely different things. And she said that no deal was better than a bad deal. This is a really bad deal. And now she's saying that no deal is quite frightening. So I think the difficulty she has in selling her deal is that people will say, well, we've heard you say these sorts of things before, and they turned out not to occur in the end. And so I think this failure of her negotiation, the failure of the deal, the inability to stick to red lines, or to see the advantages of Brexit, makes it very hard for her to sell her deal, because this is not about the positive open Brexit that people wanted. This is not about setting our own tariffs so that food, clothing and footwear can be cheaper, helping the least well-off in society. This is about managing decline and sticking as closely to the EU as we can whilst pretending we're not. And I'd be very surprised if people were gullible enough to be taken in by her deal.
She says this is the only deal on the table. She says the other options are no deal or no Brexit at all. The other EU leaders have said, that's it, that's all you're getting. We're not willing to open any negotiations. What prospect would there be of getting a better EU deal if this deal falls, if the Prime Minister falls and is replaced by another Conservative leader, or indeed, who knows, by a Labour government?
Well, I think the line of argument that the only thing you can have is what I'm giving you is an argument parents use with children when they're on a bit of a sticky wicket. I don't think it's a very strong argument. That there was always a different type of deal to be achieved. Indeed, the EU even offered a different deal. They offered a free trade deal, a Canada-style deal to the UK months ago, and they always made it clear that we could either remain in effectively, or we could be a straightforward third country and have all the independence that would give us. And that's what the Prime Minister should have gone for straight away. What can be done in the interim period? Well, I think the priority is to ensure that technical things are put in place to allow as smooth an exit as possible on the 29th of March. Leaving without a deal is nothing to be frightened of. Indeed, it brings some of the advantages that we would have forward, but there may be some friction around the date of departure, and I think the government should now focus on removing those, ameliorating those, but getting on to the comprehensive free trade deal, the Canada-style deal, that the EU has promised us.
Well, there's a European Court of Justice hearing today considering whether the UK could unilaterally call off its departure from the EU and revoke Article 50. I think we can safely say you wouldn't be a fan of that. But do you think that it is now, in all likelihood, if this deal falls by the wayside, she can't get it through, that we will now be heading towards a no-deal Brexit? Is that now the most likely scenario?
I would have thought so, because regardless of what the ECJ rules today, it would require legislation to reverse the current situation. It would require So how would that legislation get through Parliament? If no legislation is passed, the default is that we leave on the 29th of March at 11 in the evening. And therefore that is all provided for, and in the absence of anything else, is what would happen.
Have you spoken to leading Brexiteers who remain in the cabinet? We've obviously seen departure more recently, of the Brexit Secretary Dominic Raab and Esther McVey, the Work and Pensions Secretary. Previously, of course, we've lost Boris Johnson and David Davis as Brexiteers. There are still, though, 5 leading Brexiteers in the cabinet who remained there, including Michael Gove, of course. Now, by all accounts, they've spoken out in cabinet and been very critical of this plan. They've been pretty quiet when it comes to publicly endorsing the Prime Minister's plan. Have you spoken to any of them? Is there any expectation that these cabinet members will actually resign from the cabinet because, frankly, the Prime Minister's plan is not what they signed up to when they joined her government?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to any of them recently. The key test for them will be, of course, the vote on the 11th of December to decide whether they do in the end support the plan.
Should they resign, though? Should any Brexiteers still be in this government, given the policy is no longer the Brexit that they stood? Certainly, they didn't. Certainly, the Brexit they were promised by the Prime Minister when she stood for Tory leadership, and certainly the manifesto that all Tory MPs stood on in June 2017. Should any Brexiteers remain in this government, or should they resign en masse?
Well, I agree with your basic point that the proposal simply doesn't meet what was set out in the Conservative Party manifesto. It's a breach of faith with the electorate, and that's very serious because politicians need to maintain the trust of voters. In terms of should they resign now, I think the 11th of December is the key test. I think it would be very hard to say at the end of the 11th of December that you're a Brexiteer if you vote in favour of this deal.
And just finally, if there is a TV debate between the Prime Minister and Jeremy Corbyn, same night as I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here's grand final on the 9th of December is the date they're suggesting, will you be watching the debate, or will you be watching I'm a Celebrity, or doing something else?
Well, actually, I think it's more important that the Prime Minister opens the debate in the House of Commons. So when the debate starts, she and Jeremy Corbyn can speak from the front benches for their own sides and get the debate off in the proper democratic place, Houses of Parliament, and lead the debate there. I can't really understand why the Prime Minister is paying more attention to television than to Parliament, where this will be decided. But yes, I expect I'd watch the debate if it takes place. I'm sorry to say I don't have a great interest in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
OK, well, I'm sure we'll see you on it one day.